Addie Jacobs, real estate agent here in San Diego, and we are with
Darla and Norleen from Chicago Title. Hey, everyone.
All right, so we are talking investors today and kind of what goes on with investors here in San Diego, and I'm sure in different markets. But Darla and I were actually wondering from each other, I was like, what do you do with investors in the title department? And then she was asking me certain questions, so we thought we'd get together today and shoot a video all about investors.
Perfect. Okay, so initially, the questions that I get a lot are from other agents, like, hey, what are some other agents doing? And how are they able to get investor deals? Like, how do they find them? So I know you work with a lot of investors, so I thought you'd be a great person to ask. What are the tricks and how are you finding these properties for investors?
Investors like off-deal markets or off-deals.
Off-market.
Off-market deals. But not all of them are always off market. So some are on market, but biggest thing is pricing for them. I know that most of my investors do not like things that are unpermitted.
Okay.
Because they're also turning it around sometimes and putting it into a loan. The way that I find my investors deals is off market, that I have maybe a pocket listing or somebody passing and I know their family, or they get a hold of me and I don't have to put it on the market. And other ways, honestly, they're on market, but I know what they're looking for. So
And it's like you're grabbing them fast. You
Yeah.
see them pop up,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it's like first one gets the deal.
Yeah.
So
And also working with the same agents on the sell side. So having a good relationship with those agents. I know my last deal, I worked with that agent in the past, and
Okay.
he literally didn't even really look at the other offers, and we went into contract. So it was great because we had a good relationship there.
those relationships are so
Yeah.
important.
Yep.
I mean, just kind of like on my end, if you know who you're working with, like if you say, hey, Darla, so and so's on the buy side, do you have a rapport with that agent?
Yeah.
And we kind of all work together to become kind of this nice cohesive team.
Yep.
And so I think it matters when agents on the other side say, oh, it's Addie. I've worked with her before. Or I've heard great things about her. So I think that's really important. And to, have a good reputation and know that you're going to close.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as title goes on the investor side, we have what's called a binder. So anytime an investor is going to buy a property, I always suggest, well, the number one question is, how long are they going to hold the property?
Right.
If it's going to be more than 2 years, then a binder probably won't work for them. If they are flippers, then definitely. They initially pay a little bit more for the premium up front when they buy. And then when they go to sell, they're only paying the difference between what they purchased and what they're selling for. So it's not a $0 to $1 million policy. Let's say they bought it for $800,000 and they're going to sell it for $1 million. So they're only going to pay the difference between the title premium of the 800 and the $1 million price. So it really makes a huge difference. And I can talk more about that individually. So if anyone has questions, happy to answer anything.
Well, and I think it's important because when I started working with investors, I didn't even know what the binder was.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
I think us agents need to know what from start to finish, what goes on with these investors.
Right.
And especially I know for me, writing a contract and an offer, it has to look different almost than a regular sale, I feel like. So going in there with really short contingency periods. And also, I know ours is cash. The one thing I want to touch on is I think there's a lot of agents who put cash and they also take off some of the contingencies, but they're going to flip it into a loan. And it pisses the selling agent off if they don't know up front, even though it really doesn't matter because they've already taken off the loan and the appraisal contingency. But I think being truthful in the offer, saying, hey, we are a cash offer, but we do have the right to flip it into a loan, but it won't matter with the offer. I think just being open and honest about that is really important because
Yeah,
I think when
totally
you
agree.
get something that is now like, hey, we got to flip it, it doesn't really hurt the seller, but it's irritating as like
Right.
now you're getting a bad taste in your mouth.
Right.
I know I've worked with an investor before and he's like, no, just keep it quiet, keep it quiet. And I'm like, that's not how I do business in San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't want to
There's
be
a
the
lot of
girl.
people.
I know they do.
I hear it a lot.
Yeah. And I don't want to be that agent who you're like, what's this? Oh, it's an all cash deal. Is this going to get flipped into
Like,
a
is
loan?
it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just the communication. And now, especially with this, and I could touch on it all day, the buyer broker, stuff changing,
Right.
coming up here in August. Just the more communication we can have with that other agent, I think is going to win you deals.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people also don't want to sell a property to investors, right? So
Yeah, they want the forever,
I know,
person,
I get
owner,
it.
but it is what it is. You want the money or do you want the person?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. What else do you do for agents when it comes to investors? Or how do you teach all of that to them about the binders and such like that?
It's kind of like I did with you. Hey, I want to make sure that your buyer's going to be getting a binder. Do they want a binder? Asking those questions up front. How long are they planning to hold the property? If it's a long-term hold, then they don't want to spend the extra money for the binder. It's a waste. There also is the option of extending the binder, but that doesn't really happen a lot.
Well, let's back it up though. What is the binder?
So the binder is basically saving the investor money when they go to resell the property. So like I said before, it's basically an increase in the policy initially of 10% when they purchase, and then when they sell the property for a profit, obviously that's the goal here, is that they're only going to pay title insurance on the difference between when they purchased to the sale. So the binder basically means that they're going to bring that deal back to Chicago Title. If, let's say, your investor buys with a different title company, and then you say, hey, they got a binder on it, will you honor the binder price? It has to go back to that.
Yeah, and I just learned
original.
that like not too long ago. So
Yeah.
I think that stuff is really important for us to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we go ahead and flip this property. And then I learned that we can't do that if it used a different title. But escrow's fine, just not title with the binder.
Yeah, escrow has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Their fees are their fees. So it's just on the title side. But it is a good savings. So, all investors, hopefully know that that's something that they should be asking for. Or at least the agent should be asking for it.
Yeah, no, I think we all need to know that. Because sometimes as agents, we're like, here's title, here's escrow, and here's our deal. Let's go, right?
Well, it's kind of outside of your lane, right? I don't know everything that the contract says, and nor
do you want to.
I'm like,
not in California.
Good. I'll keep the 100 pages to you.
Yeah.
Let me just deal with my title side. So, there are certain things that, you are hiring an agent for a specific reason because you know your job. You're good at it. You know all the rules and regulations. Same with title. I know my lane. I know the things that we're supposed to do, what we can and can't do. Same with escrow. So it's really important, who you work with matters.
Yeah. Hey, that's my saying.
I know.
I'm like, hey, that's it. I think the other thing that's really important is having that strong team where you're like, hey, Darla, whatever it is, I can get to you for what I need and escrow and my TC. And I think that's what makes, I think there's a lot of teams out there, big teams, I'm not going to name them, but I also think that having a small team and just working with that team is really important too.
Yeah.
And then as far as like, I wanted to touch on that too, because you're growing on social media. Why don't we talk about like what your social media, like how do you teach that on social media? Do you put out different things, not just to investors, but
I think
your agents?
The key thing for my social media lately has just been offering value adds to people. So educating people about binders, educating people about title insurance, what it means when you don't get title insurance and what happens during the process and through the whole transaction, I think is really key because you never know who sees that reel or sees a post reposted by somebody else. And, it's something that pertains to them specifically. So they remember that. So I think it's giving really valuable, relatable information and not just
almost
fluff.
like dummied down too.
Yeah, because I'm not expecting anyone to understand what title insurance is. I've been doing it for 23 years, a long time, and there's still things that come up day to day that, I say, oh, wow, this is new.
Yeah,
and it's
I
great because, we're always learning. Things are always changing. So, I put out videos about the new like fraudulent things that are happening that we're seeing a lot on the title side that you don't necessarily see as an agent, but it's super important for you to know, because when you get a phone call from a owner of a vacant land or something, second home, you want to make sure that you're taking all the precautions necessary to make sure that you're talking to the actual owner of the property. So those are the things that I like to pass out and give, little nuggets here and there.
Yeah, good.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other things I want to touch on just a little bit with investors, I think it's really important if you're going to work with investors, if you are on the real estate side or you are an investor looking for an agent, hopefully it's me and our team here, is making sure that we get the property, but from right there, if you look on my YouTube channel, which is Living in San Diego with Addie Jacobs, you can see our start and you can see our part 1, part 2, and we're going through that whole entire flip with that investor. So a lot of times, agents will just sell that property for them and then they kind of like skedaddle off.
Right.
But I think it's really important, as at least I do, is getting that from part 1 all the way through that flip that may take 30, 45 days. A few different videos every week and a half.
Yeah.
And posting them on YouTube and posting those on social media as I do, just because they also want to see their portfolio grow.
Right.
So
It's
they can
cool to
utilize
see the
it.
progress too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't like a good start to finish?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I'm having fun doing those as much as I am my home tours. Like
Yeah.
those are fun because you can see the full demo out,
Right.
but it's really important for those investors, for their portfolio. They don't have to go out.
Right.
So I know my investors, some don't live here in San Diego. So I'm able to go out there and get all of that done and also like team up all the vendors to be working, and also going in when we do inspection, all of my vendors go in one day. So within
Yeah.
that period of time, I call out the scope, which is plumbing, electrical, roofing, foundation, inspection, and even the yard guys. So the
Okay.
landscapers, they all come in within those 2 hours and get everything done at one time. So we don't want to bother that seller or that agent to keep opening up if somebody's living at that property.
Right.
That's what they don't want inspectors to do, or
Right.
they don't want investors to do, coming in for 5 days straight and keep inspecting that property. Let's just get
Right.
it all done one time.
Yeah,
So
that
I know
sounds like it would be way better.
Yeah,
Way
yeah.
better.
And so my team really does get together and do it in one day, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
So, all right, you guys,
Okay.
that's for investors. So we will wrap it up and we'll see you on the next YouTube and also video.
See you
All right,
next time.
bye.